So now that we've worked our way through the hello world, let's take a look at some more of the really basic tags that are available to us in HTML. So we're going to, now your page is going to look a little different than mine because by the time you see these, all of these videos are going to be in there. The previous video was hello world. That's this set of links. This video is HTML tags like so. So I'm just going to open that HTML tags in a new tab here inside of this window. And you'll notice this doesn't look satisfactory, right? This is not what we were seeing before. Right here, the big blue button on the top is fork repel. What that's going to do is create a copy that is automatically saved to your Replit folder. So this way, when I'm going through and making changes, and when you're going through and making changes, it doesn't affect my original version of this particular file. So first and foremost, we're going to start at the top and we're going to work our way down. We're going to add more tags as we go through with this example. So what you see will change a little bit, but maybe not drastically here. So just like before, we have our opening tag for HTML. And if we click on it, you'll see that one thing I didn't mention before, the syntax highlighting goes for your opening and your closing tag as well. So if you look on the far left, the far left of your opening tag there, line number 2, you'll notice this solid line that comes all the way down here to line 43. And once I click inside of that HTML tag any place, so I'll just click in there again, you'll notice down here on line number 43, it highlights the other side. I can do that any place. If I click in line number 3, that's the opening tag for head. Here's the closing tag for head. And you can see right here in between them, that solid line. These things will help you as you're going through and you are invariably making mistakes. I make mistakes as I go through this because I usually don't like talk my way through having to code anything. So it's a little different for me too. So all of that will help discover where your mistakes are. So here again on line number 12, this is where our body tag starts, and the body is where everything is being displayed out to our end users. So here, the first thing we have is H1. H's are heading tags. So we have heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, heading 5. So that's H1, H2, H3, H4, H5. And you can see those right down here on lines 23 through 27. The thing about heading tags is to know the smaller the number, the bigger the display. So heading 1 is very, very big. Heading 5 is, relatively speaking, very, very small. So before we get any further, it's worth to note here on line 23, you can see I started in H1. I have something inside of that tag, and then I have a closing tag for that. So I'm going to go ahead right here under where it says underline, I'm going to start typing. So in order for us to get the opening, so the less than for one of our tags, we have to say shift, and then on my keyboard anyway, it's right above the space bar. To the right of the M key is my less than symbol, which gets me this. This pop-out list has everything I need that HTML has built into it. So if I say H1, you'll notice that it auto-completes for H1. And if I hit enter, nothing happens. So let's do it again. So H1, and if I hit spacebar, nothing happens. But if I say H1 and hit the closing tag, or if I mouse over and click on, I guess that doesn't work either. But I want the closing tag, that's shift, and then the greater than symbol, which is right next to the less than symbol. So anything I start typing here is going to be displayed in those H1 tags. So I'm going to say RVC buildings, just like so. And then if I open another tag, so again, that's shift and the button next to the M, and say H1, it's going to give me the opportunity. So I'll say H1 again. You can see I have a closing tag there. This time it will finish that. So I did that with the mouse, but let's say I don't want to use the mouse because every time you move your hands off of the keyboard, it's a little bit slower. So if I just say slash, it's going to fill out the rest of it for me. So again, what I just did there was I said less than / and then enter, and it fills up the rest of that H1 for me. So I'll say H1 for RVC buildings. Now I'm going to do it again on a new line. I'm just going to say H2. And what do we have? RVC parking lots. And now when I want to close that tag, I'm going to shift less than / which is right next to it again on that row to the immediate left of your right shift key. And all I have to do is hit enter, and it fills in the rest of the H2 for me. So heading 3, this is where we'll stop. H3, close that. And what else do we have? RVC goose populations. And then, so shift less than / enter, and it fills out the rest of those H3s for me. So before we go through any of these other tags, let's go ahead and hit run. And what we'll see over here in that output window is the output of all of this stuff we have over here as far as our HTML code goes. So right here on line 12, HTML tags overview. We can see that right here, tags overview. Right here, you see this big break, this big gap in between our content here. That's a result of this line right here, BR. Now, remember how in one of the previous videos I said almost all, but not all HTML tags require an opening tag and a closing tag? A break is one of these that does not require a closing tag. So as a matter of fact, if I come through here and just say BR, like so. So now I've got, we'll get rid of that question mark. We've got 4 breaks right here on line number 14. And if I run this, you'll notice that gap got a little bit bigger. If I go back and I remove all of those BRs and I run this, you'll notice that gap got a little bit smaller. So a break does not require an end tag. There's a couple of them that don't. A horizontal row, which we won't do, also does not require the end tag there. So here, since we were talking about headings, those are our headings, and those happened right here. So heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, heading 5. And here's our RVC buildings, the one we built together. That's heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. Other tags that we have, way up here on line number 16, we have a paragraph. So a paragraph works very much the same way as a paragraph would work if we were doing this in Microsoft Word. The thing about HTML is the responsibility for all the formatting is up to you. So a paragraph essentially causes lines to break. So you can see right here that there's a space happening here. So that's this line right here and this line right here, so 16 and 17. So I'm going to take out this break right here on line 18, and I'm going to run it again. And what you'll notice is right here between the end of this paragraph that ends tags and this paragraph that begins a tag, that gap got a little bit smaller. That's exactly what we were looking for it to do. So here, I'll just go ahead and talk our way through here. So everything you see displayed rather on a web page is because of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, is that 100% true? No. We do have other technologies. We do have other languages. PHP is one of them. Perl is one of them. There's a whole bunch. JavaScript, there's a ton of different JavaScript language variants. But for this exercise, we will rely exclusively on HTML and CSS to display everything. So in order for your browser to know what's happening, like we've said this whole time, we need these tags to do it. And so here we go. A tag surrounds a keyword and lets the browser know how to display something. So these heading H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, those are heading tags that lets the browser know, hey, without much intervention, this is how you would like me to display the text. We also have a paragraph, so that's P, so the P tag. So the opening tag for P and the closing tag for P will enforce a paragraph break, just like you see right here in your output window. We also have bold, italics, and underline, like you see right here. But take notice of something. What do you notice about this one line as opposed to these separate lines? There's no reason to break inside of a paragraph or inside of a line just because we have bold, italics, and underline. If we wanted those to break, we would put a BR inside of here. Now, through many, many years of coding, this is what I do when I do a break is I'm holding down the shift key and I'm going to say less than greater than. And then I'm going to go arrow to the left and just put in my BR, and that's it. And here, again, less than greater than, go to the left, BR, because I know I'm going to come back and do those. Not everybody is going to do it that way, especially not here in the beginning, but I'll tell you it's a great habit to get into. So here now I have my bold, my italics, and my underline the way you would expect to see them with spaces in between. So why did the paragraph do that here on line number 28 and give us a space in between the paragraph text and the bold? Well, because a paragraph, like it did up here between lines 16 and 19, gave us a break. Now, it's also worth mentioning here that what's happening here on line 17 and 18, on line 21, on line 32, on line 38, or 36 through 38, is called white space. It is there as a visual distinction. It is there for you as a developer. It is there for me as the next developer who comes through to look at your code. It's way easier on your eyes to see these breaks in the content. They go, okay, look, we're shifting gears from one paragraph to another, from one section of headings to another, whatever the case might be. If everything was in one contiguous block of code, there's no way that you as a reader, there's no way that me as a reader would be able to come through and read it and find to our satisfaction what it is that we are looking for. So those are tags. Between here and there, we've seen H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, paragraph, bold, that's B, U for underline, and I for italics, that is 9 tags already. We can also do what is called nesting. So you can see that here on line number 39. That's when I have multiple opening tags without immediately closing them. So what does that look like? So right here, I have a bold and italics heading 1. The way we do that is we open an H1 tag. You can see it here on 39. So I'll go ahead and do something similar right underneath. So I've got H1. I'm going to say a bold, so that's B. And I've got an I for italics. And now I'm going to say something. We need a string of text. A string of text here. And now what we need to do is close all of those tags off. So we do it in the opposite order. So I comes first, then comes B, then comes, see, we needed to get that I here. There we go. Then comes B, then comes H1. And actually, if you'll notice, Replit helped me do that. So, and I'll go ahead and just recreate those. Now what we're going to do is close these off. So shift less than, and I'm going to say the last tag that I opened, slash, and you'll notice that it filled it out with the I for me already. So I'm going to hit enter. We're going to open our tag. I'm going to hit slash, and it's got my B for me already. I hit enter. It fills it out for me. I hit less than again, and this time it knows that I want to close off my H1. So I'm going to run this again, and I've got on line number 40 my opening and my closing tags. This is what is known as nesting, because I've got tags inside of tags inside of tags, and that is something that you absolutely positively can do. Now, because I mentioned it before, I actually went back through and I added it here. Here is a horizontal row. That is over here. You can see this little gray breach. It goes across the whole width of the page. That is a horizontal row. It does not require a closing tag. Here is a break underneath that. You can actually see over here that breach underneath our full length horizontal row. Those don't require the ending tag either. So there you have it, a bunch of tags to get to know. H1, big heading. H2, somewhat smaller. H3, a little bit smaller. H4, a little bit smaller. You get where this is going. We also have paragraphs. Those cause a break afterwards. So if I scroll up here, you see this little space in between one paragraph and another, just the same way we would if we were doing a Word document, for example. Paragraph. So you would wrap your paragraph in a paragraph tag. Here is on line 16 our opening P and our closing P. Now remember, if I have an opening tag, all I have to do is click inside of it and then look for the highlighted portion. That's going to get me my closing tag as well. So I can do that here. You can see there's all my opening and closing tags, nice and tidy. The other thing we can do is nest tags, put one inside of another, and we have done that here. H1, B, and I for italics, and over here we close them in the reverse order. So we start with our last one, italics, then our second, bold, and then our last, H1, and we can rely on the IDE replet to help us do that. Don't worry, we've got more exercises in this coming down the pike. This is just to get us started. So next we are going to look at what else we can do with simple HTML.